that's something that I'm learning as a as a black girl at a predominantly white institution. I am learning that it is okay to. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm gonna be doing, I guess you could say, like a dissection of this Women Evolve book by Miss Sarah Jakes Roberts. And I picked this book up in Target almost a month ago. For this year, I set a goal for me to read a book every month. This, I would say I slagged on it. Slag leg, I don't know if that's even a word, but because I just finished it and it's like February 12th or something like that. So obviously this was supposed to be my book for January and I'm finishing it mad late. But today I'm gonna be telling y'all what I learned in each chapter and summarizing it, everything like that. Yee! In chapter 1, it was called Rescue Eve, and she talked about how everyone always points Eve out as being the bad character, whatever the case may be, but every woman, she was, so this is a book about women, she was mainly talking about women, but she was just saying how every woman has that part of them in them, has that portion of Eve in them where you may sometimes get deterred or go in the opposite direction of your goals or the path that you're going towards or that you intend on going towards, and basically how it's normal, and she can understand and have compassion for Eve. So that's how she decided to what do I say? That's how she decided to introduce the book and the chapter, because I don't know if she said this in the first chapter or like it was in one of the earlier chapters where she was saying like she got the Women Evolve, the evolve portion of it from Eve. So she started off just by saying that everybody has a little portion of them where it's like, you know, sometimes you may get off track, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you shouldn't just be looked at as badly because of that, because you do something to kind of push you back from your goals. You just gotta keep going. But we'll talk about that a little later. In the next chapter, it was called Know Better. And in this chapter, she talked about how faith and fear sometimes speak at the same, or can come about at the same time, and more so like trying to combat the two in not different ways to do that. She didn't give like, oh, you can do this list and tips, but she was just talking about that, as well as having to choose different paths in life and how difficult it may be when you don't know the outcome. Like, if you knew for a fact that if you were to quit your job today, you would get a better job next week, of course you would quit your job. But if you didn't have no plan and you wanted to quit your job, more than likely you're not going to quit your job because you don't have a plan. You still have bills to pay, depending on who you are. If you're older than yes, you have bills and things like that to pay, so you're not just going to up and quit your job. However, if you already knew that God had another job waiting for you next week that was better than this, of course you would quit your job in an instant. So she was saying how it's hard to make decisions when you don't know the outcome. So sometimes you kind of just have to have faith. That was the second point I made for that chapter. The third one was having experiences that make you question if God is good. I was gonna say if God is not. If God is good. Like, you know, sometimes if something bad happens to you, you'll be like, God, why me? Y'all know how they say, don't ask God, why me? Or different things like that. She was just saying how different experiences could cause you to lose faith or have a lack of faith, but you essentially just have to keep going and keep like leaning on Him. As well as gaining confidence, I would say that kind of aligns, just having confidence in certain aspects of, like, I would just feel like faith and confidence go kind of hand in hand as we're talking about it as it relates to this topic. What I learned from that was this, I didn't talk about this in the summary part, but I learned to, because she did touch on this, but it wasn't really prevalent in this chapter, but I learned to watch how the people around me and the environment I'm in, how that influences my thoughts per se. And I saw this like shortly after I read that in this chapter. I heard it in the podcast, but they were saying watch how your environment like makes you feel, and she was saying watch how it makes you think. So I was just like, it was kind of like a coming full circle moment, because I had just read about it, and this was like probably like a week later I heard about it in the podcast, and I was like, okay. But I do try to, like, I'm not gonna say limit, but y'all know how it'd be like when you listen to the same type of music, you can be influenced by that all the time. So I try to diversify my things, because I know a lot of times, like, it'll be like I've been listening to rap music all day. I'll make sure I come up on the do not disturb. I'll make sure I like turn it off because I don't want to be doing that all day. I'm not really like that anymore. I would say the past few months, like I've slowed down on that, but I would say me maybe 6 months ago, I would definitely be heavy on listening to rap all the time. So I try to like be mindful of the things I'm letting in my environment and my space, even if it's just far as what I'm consuming online, music, different things I'm listening to, or videos I'm watching, things like that. Just being mindful of your environment, because it don't necessarily have to be, yes, it can be the people that you surround yourself around, but it can also be the things that you're consuming. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because she talked about this later on, but I don't know, it just, that's what I learned when I read it then. And then I also learned to stop concluding statements with I don't know when you do know. So I do that a lot, and that stuck out to me because it's literally something I do a lot. I'd be like, yeah, I just feel like such and such, and then I'll be like, but I don't know. No, you do know, because you just said exactly how you feel, but you're ending it with I don't know. And it's kind of taken away from, like, essentially you knowing exactly how you feel. You're taken away from your feelings by saying you don't know, because you do know. And I was telling my roommate the same thing, but it was like also like practice what you preach, which is something I'm working on. But yeah, her saying that was very like something else that I had been already telling myself, and I had been hearing from something else, and it was more another full circle moment being more prevalent in me. It was some things that were like, of course I had heard them before, or I had seen it before, but me hearing it again, it was like, you know, snapping in my brain. We're gonna go to chapter 3. Chapter 3 was Eyes Wide Open. In this chapter, how different experiences can affect what you believe and kind of play a role and shape the way you look at things. Obviously, like when you're born, you don't just think, oh, if I'm hearing this sound, oh, that was gonna be a bad example. First I was gonna say gunshots, then I started snapping, so I was gonna say I'm hearing this sound, that's a snap. Obviously, when you're born, you don't know that that's a snap, but that's not what it's about. She was talking about, I do remember she was saying how you kind of train yourself when you're watching scary movies, when a scary part is about to come up. If you are like this, or if you're scared of scary movies, you kind of train yourself to close your eyes when you feel something scary is about to happen, or like suspense is building up, you automatically close your eyes. You don't know to do that when you're a baby, so it's kind of like you've learned and gained that experience over time. Good and evil, controlling what you allow yourself to consume. Like I was saying, I was just talking about this from the last chapter, but she actually talked about it in this chapter, but it was just something that I learned. It kind of related to the chapter moving forward, which is this current chapter. But I learned to not avoid what scares me, because then I'm ultimately allowing that to be in control of me, and I don't like, if you know me, I don't like nothing being in control of me but me. Like, don't be trying to tell me what to do, because no, if I don't want to do it, I'm not gonna do it. So that's something that stood out to me in that chapter. Oh, she said to not avoid what scares you. That was what was related to the scary movie thing. When you're avoiding what scares you, it's kind of controlling you. So yeah, that was that. And then the second thing I learned was to unsubscribe, or trying to unsubscribe to a negative narrative can be hard, but it will be so worth it in the end. Like any negative thoughts or anything like that. I feel like that kind of goes with training your mind a little bit, just to not think a certain way, or like even what I've been doing recently was this don't have nothing to do with the chapter, but what I've been trying to do recently is like self-doubt talk, or negative talk. Like, try not to do that, because like, no, like I can do it. Not just saying I can do it, but like literally like, I can't do this, I'm tired, like, I've been trying to complain less, because in general, I don't complain a lot, but to some or certain people, I may complain a lot, but in general, to like regular people, of course, I'm not gonna complain. But chapter 4 is A War of Seed. I need to work on my handwriting, but in this, the summary was, it's easier to stand up to a devil when we can physically see them, opposed to when it's like hiding in plain sight. She told a story about her when she was at the airport, and I don't know if these are called Satanists, but y'all know, people that worship the devil. I believe that's what she saw. She just said they had on all this black, I don't know if it was like a cross scratch, I don't know. But basically, in my mind, when I was reading that, I took it in as they were Satanists, if that's what they are. But people that worship or believe in the devil. And she was like, when she saw it, she was just like, it's like, it's a red flag. Like, she had to get out of there. And it's like, it was easier for her to like turn down or realize that this is the devil working literally in my face, opposed to, I don't know if y'all know different sayings when be like, whenever something is going wrong, you'll be like, oh, the devil is a lie, or like the devil working overtime today, anything like that. It'll just be different stuff like that. That's more so like, but when you, I don't know how to put it, but it's almost like it's hiding in plain sight and you don't necessarily realize it. The second thing was, this wasn't a summary or nothing, but it was a quote she said that I guess you could say resonated with me. She said, I believe the cure to what cripples society can be found in its members. That didn't really resonate with me, but just, I feel like it was something that y'all needed to hear. She said, I believe the cure to what cripples society can be found in its members. And then she proceeded to talk about what we can do to fix that. Y'all can let that resonate with you all. Then she talked about how God created us to produce, not necessarily in the aspect of like having sex and making kids, but more so actually taking what he's given you and plant it and multiply it and produce it over and over again. Kind of like, not rinse and repeat, but like essentially rinse and repeat process, regardless of what that may be. He gave you a gift, you teach another person, you pass it on, so forth and so forward. The title of chapter 5 was worth the wait, where she talked about where you are versus what you do, who you are versus what you do. Y'all know how people ask, oh, who are you? And you'll be like, oh, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm a brother. That's not really who you are. That's more so like the place you hold in people's lives. It's not who you are. That's not who you are. That's just your title to them, whatever the case may be. I feel like that's something that's pretty much talked about. Not a lot, but in general, that's been a topic that I've been in a conversation for a multitude of times. The next thing was not needing to know every detail about your passion in order to set your life and set yourself up for that passion, for a purpose, for your purpose. And being purposeful. She also talked about gaining fuel for your passion. She was using the two words kind of interchangeably, not necessarily, but I kind of am. But she also talked about how failure can oftentimes be a blessing in disguise. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. A lot of times you may think you want something, but it may not be as good as it seems. May not be as good as it seems. Whatever that is that you feel like, oh, you just so desperately need, it isn't always hyped up to be what it is. I will say that. And here goes another quote that stood out to me. So the quote was, when God gives you an opportunity, he isn't expecting you to become someone else to fulfill it. And then she later said, don't be that awkward puzzle piece, sis. So she was saying that to say, like, if I take that as what's meant for you will be for you. Like, you don't have to necessarily be anybody else to do it. Like, it's for you. You don't have to change yourself to do what you're doing. Just be you. Cool? Got it? Okay, good. Chapter 6, it'll never add up. Okay, so the summary for this is that she was talking about the story in the Bible of Jesus offering 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish to feed over 5,000 plus people. He asked, I don't know if the boy was in line. I definitely don't want to misquote the story, but I believe he asked the boy. A boy is the one that had the food. Oh yeah, the bread and the fish, the food. And he asked him for it to feed the people. And of course, the average person or me or any of us would be like, oh, you think this little bread and this fish is gonna feed all these people? But the boy gave it to him. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the boy gave it to him. And I feel like that was just saying, like, the boy had faith that like they would make it work, whether he knew or not completely that they would make it work. He still was willing to sacrifice and surrender. Surrender was the word she used. The boy was still willing to surrender his items to him, whether, like, regardless of if he believed that it would work or not, he still was able to surrender to him and give it to him. The next thing I learned was to know where you are, who you're with, and what you have. Know where you are, who you are with, and what you have. know where you are. It's kind of like sometimes it may be the right idea, but it may be the wrong timing. You may not be in a place to accept what it is that you're trying to accept in that moment. So that's kind of how I take that. Take it how you want to, but know where you are. And then the second one was who you're with. We just talked about that in the environment aspect. And what you have. You have to know the things that you have access to, things that you do not have access to. Things you can get it easily, things you cannot. So the 3 things were: know who you are. No, I lied. Know where you are, who you're with, and what you have. From this chapter, I learned that your faith has to be greater than what you can see. Yeah. And, oh wow, I didn't touch on this in the summary portion, but she did talk a lot about not doing things on your own and alone, and just being willing to let someone in order to increase your life. She said increase. I'll say in order to evolve, if you will, since this book is called Women Evolve. In order to evolve your life, sometimes you have to let someone else in order to help you. Y'all know how they say 2 is better than 1. You know, superheroes have their sidekick in order to help them. Different things of that nature. Just because, like, doing stuff on your own can be so draining or tiring. A lot of times when you have another person with you, it's like bingo. Like, not bingo, but like having another person help you can just make a world of a difference. Chapter 7. Good goes hard. I almost read that wrong. But okay, the summary for this was, she talked about like if things are a curse or a blessing. Sometimes things could be like a blessing in disguise. And to me, this resonated, or it reminded me of when people are like, or the phrase, be careful what you wish for, which is also, no, it's definitely not like that. But it reminded me of like, be careful what you wish for, because sometimes, like I was just saying, you could want something, and that something that you're wanting may not always be as hyped up to be what it is. And I'm sure that has happened to each and every last one of you at least a couple of times within your life. Asking for help being a last resort. She talked about how asking for help should not be a last resort, but it oftentimes is. Like, literally, I'm just gonna use the phrase here, like, people will go to hell and back by themselves before they reach out for help. And I will say that I am one of those people, because it's just like, I don't need your help. I don't need your help. But I have definitely been getting much better at help. Like, because now I'm realizing in order to like have a better outcome, like sometimes you just have to ask for help, whether people say yes or not, or like if you ask one person they say no, and then you ask the other person they say no, then it's kind of like, okay, whatever. But asking for help doesn't have to be the last resort. Like, you don't have to go through so much trouble before you ask for help. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help. Like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just smiling because I feel like this is kind of like me talking to myself, telling myself this, more so for myself than for anybody else, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I wrote a whole lot in tiny letters that I went back to this part. But she also talked about like the power of meditation, and yeah, y'all know meditation. I don't like to write down much of it about that because y'all know what meditation is and the power. But she also talked about you have to remember, yeah. You have to remember to take up space in your own life. So she described it as, you're setting up everything to take a perfect picture. You're making sure everybody is lined. You're making sure, you make sure her hair is done nice. You make sure they're standing in windows for the picture. You're the photographer. But like, you're included in the family too, but you forget to step in the picture, essentially. So like, you just did all of that setting up, make sure everybody else was good, but you forgot. You literally forgot to get in the picture yourself. Like, that's what that is. You having to remember that you can take up space too, and that you matter too. Why am I hitting myself? But that you matter, like your opinion matters, everything in that manner, that space is necessary, because yeah, I think it is necessary to take up space. Don't be afraid to speak up, because a lot of time it is necessary. That's just a little sidebar about me being here. But we're gonna go to chapter 8, which is called Good Goals. Let's make sure that's right. Good Goals. Yes, that's chapter 8. The summary was not allowing for fear or of others to keep you from spreading your wings. So that's more so just like people tell me, girl, you think you really could do that? You think you really gonna be able to be on that? You think they really gonna put you on a basketball team, girl? But yeah, more so like just because somebody else is scared, that don't mean you have to be scared, or they're scared for you, or they think you shouldn't do it. That does not have to. Don't let that reflect onto you and how you feel. Don't let them get in your head, nothing like that. Because no, keep your confidence and have it. Stand on it. Stand on it. Don't let anybody else's fear get in your head. Is how I took that. But she said from spreading your wings, yeah. The importance. She also discussed the importance of goal setting, and then she talked about making them realistic. Well, I said making them realistic. She just talked about breaking them down. So the task is, so in this book, she set aside different, I think Work It Out. It was called Work It Out. She set aside different portions where basically they're journal entries that you do, not entries, but you just like, I would do like a page or 2 or 3 in my journal, and they would have different topics where you would do different things. That's why I would suggest y'all reading this book, because the journal entries are nice. But this one was write down your goals, short, long term, and generational. So right now I'm going to tell you to write down your goals. Write down a few short-term goals, a few long-term goals, and a few generational goals, and try to make them specific to the point where it's like, not to the point, but initially when I first started writing mine, I started out like, I don't want to say like materialistic, but like the first thing I wrote down was like I want to get a car or whatever, and then I scratched it out. And then I don't even remember the second thing I wrote because my journal was up there, but then I wrote something else and then I scratched that out too. And I was like, like these are goals of mine, but in this moment, that's not what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on like I guess personal goals, like, oh, if I want to like, yeah, just not nothing. I don't know if a car would be considered materialistic, but I guess yes, right? Yes, it's a material object, so duh. But yeah, so I tried to like take it away from the materialistic aspects and portions of it, and more so think about it on a personal level for your goals. Of course, like if you wanted to do a generational, like, oh, I want to create generational wealth, I want to like create generational happiness or less trauma at a young age or anything like that. So just try to make them more personable and not anything that deals with materials or I want to save $1,000 money or anything like that. The next thing was, well, it's not the next thing, but I was just gonna say after that, like sometimes it would be different portions of the write it out. And after that, she was saying to go to your short-term goals and break that short-term goal down into bite-sized goals to make it more manageable. I feel like I'm just looking like duh, but yeah, that was in addition to that. After that, she talked about everyone experiencing parental wounds regardless of a healthy upbringing or not. And this reminded me of like seeing, sometimes I see on TikTok, like I'll be on like, even though like I'm not a parent or nothing like that, but I'll be on like gentle parenting or non-trauma binding, like parental TikTok essentially. And that's what it reminded me of, because I see a lot of those videos on my For You page from time to time. But she was just saying how like you can have parental wounds, or she was saying her personally, like she grew up in a healthy environment, they live, laugh, love, like in their house. There wasn't anything wrong. She had a 2-parent household, etc., etc. But there was still like parental wounds that I don't know if she said she would have to heal from them or whatever the case may be, but she was essentially saying that they were still there. So it's like, regardless of if you had a great upbringing, there will still be things that go wrong, or there will still be things that happen that stick with you and that will stick out to you regardless. That was something that I never really thought about, because people always talk about like how your mom, how your parents have traumatized you at a young age. But it's also like in some instances, everything is not a trauma per se, and a lot of times or oftentimes it could be like it was, I don't want to say it was just a wound, but more so like everything is not necessarily trauma binding, but it could still be something that happened to you that like kind of affected you in a great some way, even if it wasn't necessarily in relation to trauma. But chapter 9, we're gonna get into that. It was Set It in Motion. Set It in Motion. And she talked about the importance of committing to a process and not an outcome. Not outcome. Now, this reminded me of how people talk about, or I think this was an Instagram post I saw. They were saying, no, it wasn't an Instagram post. It was a TikTok, a sound on TikTok, where the man was saying, like, in order for you to be consistent with your workout goals, you have to commit to the act of working out instead of committing to, I mean, not be consistent with, to your goals. In order for you to, like, stay consistent in the gym, you have to basically fall in love with going to the gym. You don't fall in love with the end goal or how you want to look and the results of going to the gym, but you have to, like, actually fall in love with going to the gym in order for you to truly remain consistent and actually to develop that as a habit instead of just, okay, I'm just going to the gym until I lose this weight. Like, in order to develop a healthy, like, habit with going to the gym, it's more so like you have to fall in love with going to the gym and not just, oh, I want to look like a Instagram baddie. Like, I want me a slim waist, you know, hourglass figure. Like, you have to actually fall in love with that act of going to the gym. Like, getting that grind in. Period. Whew. Anyways, why am I getting tired? Like, I'm just talking, but anyways, having enough discipline to not quit. That also kind of go with the gym thing, but she talked about, yeah, having enough discipline to not quit, kind of just sticking to it. She also related that back to Eve. Yeah. And then she talked about handling correction when your intentions were pure. And then it was a journal section. It talked about a time when, to write about a time when you were wrong and someone, like, corrected you and how that affected you or everything like that. Y'all can do that too if y'all want to. Y'all might as well, since y'all got them journals out. But and how you handle corrections, like, even when your intentions are pure, because sometimes you may feel like, oh, I was just saying XYZ, but it doesn't necessarily come off that way to the other person. And if they correct you or call you out on it or they tell you how it made them feel, you have to know how to handle that in a proper way, because definitely don't be trying to like go back on if somebody tell you, oh, I feel like XYZ, like, oh, well, you made me feel like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You can talk about your feelings when, you know, when you ready to or when they happen, but don't do it just because they're talking about theirs. Talking to myself again. Anyways, chapter 10, we're gonna do Don't Do It Alone. Not we're gonna do, but it's titled Don't Do It Alone. I feel like this also kind of goes back to where she was saying, asking for help, lastly, and making sure that you doing stuff for other people. But the summary was, she talked about expecting great things and surrendering to joy. How a lot of times when you're let down or like your expectations aren't met, you oftentimes stop expecting great things. But she was saying, like, you can still expect a good outcome and things like that. I don't know if y'all saw Spider-Man, but I know MJ, she was like, that was kind of the idea, but she was just saying, like, still have faith and still hope to expect great things. Personally, I don't want to say I don't know how to feel about that, but like, I get it, but I'll just say I'm not that mature yet, because I don't know, like, I don't know. Honestly, it depends on, for me personally, it depends on the setting I'm in. But that was for me, like, sometimes, like, I would expect great things in that sense, but other times it's like, I don't, like, I won't expect a good outcome out of certain things, per se. Next thing she talked about was celebrating, not competing. She touched on how sometimes, you know, women sit around. She talked about how sometimes, you know, you're friends with the people you're friends with just because y'all have, like, common, like, I forgot the term she used, but I'll just say, like, oh, y'all are only friends because y'all talk about people together, or, like, that's all y'all do in y'all friendship. Like, no. So that's what she was just saying, celebrating, not competing. She was mainly touching on how, you know, women sit around gossip, talking about other people, etc., etc. And she was saying how you will not lose anything from yourself. You will not lose anything from you or any of your greatness by celebrating another woman. Yes, y'all, girls, empower girls, women. Yes, yes, yes. She also touched on establishing a group of like-minded women that are seeking the best versions of themselves as well. And she was just saying how, you know, your community makes a difference. The last chapter, ladies and gents, chapter 11, Wow Woman. Wow Woman. This chapter, I honestly felt like she was more so, this whole chapter, I kind of felt like she was just giving motivation and kind of wrapping up the book. She was just closing it out. Like, you know how when you do conclusion to your essay and you're essentially just like restating your intro paragraph and like sliding some more little stuff in. That's kind of how I felt the last chapter was, but she talked about intentionality as we move forward, meaning as we move forward from ending this book, being intentional about what you're doing and everything you just learned about in this video or in this book. If you read this book or if you're gonna go grab this book, I'll put the link down in the bio.
I mean, I don't know how many times I gotta tell y'all to go in the place y'all order because the link is in the bio. But I'll wait. I'm gonna be waiting for y'all.
Because y'all need to go get this. And then a quote she said was, documenting your wins is just as important as dissecting your failures. Documenting your wins is just as important as dissecting your failures. Yeah. Cool. I was gonna give y'all an example of my personal life, but y'all exactly understand what that means. Like, yes, you can celebrate when you win and everything like that, but when you lose or you have a setback, analyze and figure out why that was so that you can work on that so that next time you can win. Okay, the next quote she said was, this is going to be the last quote. She said, what you allow to take up space in your heart matters. You know, you have a limited amount of space in there, so be careful of what you are allowing in your space and in your feelings. I was going to say, we're going to close out this book. No, we're going to close out this book. I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to be trying to do these monthly, kind of just, why do I keep saying dissecting? Maybe that's not a frog, but okay, it's Saturday and I try to upload videos on Sunday, so I'm gonna like not really edit this because like I kind of want it to be kind of like raw, but I'm gonna edit it a little bit and get this uploaded for tomorrow. But I'm gonna try to do these once a month. So this is my first book of the year that I finished, and I also want to like use this as more so, yes, use this as me being accountability partner for me to make sure that I'm reading what I need to be reading. So I have my next book over there in the corner, so y'all can expect another book dissection from me next month. I'm gonna try to do once a month for each book I read. But if y'all have any other recommendations, please leave them down below because your girl needs to be stimulating her brain, y'all, for real. Last month I deleted social media for like basically the month of January, and that's when I decided like, oh yeah, I need to start reading. Of course I had a little more free time because I wasn't on social media. That's why I would like be reading on the bus and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna try to read at least one book a month because I haven't really read, like, not for my enjoyment, but for my enjoyment or either personal development. I've not read since I was in middle school or probably before that. I haven't really read a book for myself because y'all know, like, of course, like, okay, I'll read for class, but like barely like spark notes, like looking up summaries and stuff. But I haven't actually read a book front to back, page to page, and wow, especially not for myself. So this is gonna be me holding myself accountable. So y'all can comment down below any book suggestions you have for me, if you think I may like them based off of the book that you heard me talk about today and based off of just the topic that I gave you all. I was thinking about getting to Raji P. Henson's book next just because I saw it at Target in like the Black History section, and you know, we gotta let them know that we want to keep seeing stuff like that, so we gotta make sure that we're buying from them. Not me giving a Target plug, but that is all that I have for this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And please give me some book recommendations down below, as well as other videos you would like to see. And have a good day.